Happy Hump Day, everyone. Hope you all are doing really great. Today we're going to play a conscious movie review by the Cinema Scribe Brent Marchant on The Land of Steady Habits. Thank you all for tuning in and enjoy.
My thanks to Bring Me to Life Radio, and welcome to the Cinema Scribe. For many of us, certainty and stability have a definite comforting appeal. We enjoy the predictability and reliability, a soothing reassurance that life will go on as we've known it. However, such an existence can also become a stifling trap, one that suffocates us, often without us becoming aware of it until it's almost too late. This is where the value of change and pushing past established limits becomes desirable, if not essential, to our happiness. Concepts explored in the new character study, The Land of Steady Habits. Anders Hill, played by Ben Mendelsohn, feels lost. The recently divorced, recently retired former financial professional seeks the happiness that eluded him in his former life. But no matter how hard this middle-aged suburbanite looks, he never seems to find it. Of course, it doesn't help that he makes more than his share of bad decisions along the way. More on that later. As Anders pursues a new life in earnest, he professes what appears to be a sincere desire to be a better person than he was in his old existence. For instance, he claims to have given up being a financial advisor because, in his view, the profession is built on principles of inherent greed with no moral compass, all designed to simply feather the nests of its practitioners, many of whom don't realize or care what they may be doing to their clients. What's more, he looks back on his old life, one not unlike that many of his fellow Westport, Connecticut residents, as an endless exercise in mindless tedium, full of daily conscience-numbing ordeals designed to pursue illusions of happiness that never quite pan out, and that do nothing to help shape or improve one's personal character. So, having come to these realizations, Anders decided to chuck it all. In addition to abandoning his profession, he divorced his wife, Helene, played by Edie Falco, an attempt to escape an empty marriage and an overstuffed house filled with materialist comforts that have become more constraining than liberating. He also left behind many of his former friends, most of whom remain blindly stuck on the treadmill of their conventional conformist lifestyles, such as his one-time close companions Sophie and Mitchell Ashford, played by Elizabeth Marvel and Michael Gaston. In fact, about the only connection to his past that he has deliberately tried to maintain is his relationship with his son Preston, played by Thomas Mann, a 20-something college graduate recovering from substance abuse issues who's now working dead-end jobs to stay clean and to make ends meet. However, having purged himself of so much, Anders now has a lot of space to fill up in his life. He spends most of his time decorating his new townhouse, but beyond that, there's little to occupy his days. Consequently, he ends up becoming embroiled in those aforementioned bad decisions. For instance, he pursues a string of meaningless sexual encounters, most of which end up disappointing, for various reasons. But, more troubling than that, Anders has a knack for landing himself in the middle of some highly questionable situations, such as an unlikely, and some would say unhealthy and enabling, friendship with Charlie, played by Charlie Tahan, the Ashford's drug-abusing teenage son, who desperately looks for a way to escape an impending stint in rehab after an overdose incident. And then there's his involvement with Barbara, played by Connie Britton, a woman whom Anders meets in a strip club men's room after she binges on liquor, presumably to ditch the date who brought her there in the first place. Given these situations, one might understandably question the protagonist's judgment. But, in spite of these highly problematic circumstances, Anders genuinely seems to want to do the right thing. He just doesn't know how. And because of that, his handling of these incidents rarely turns out for the best. Are these matters that simply get out of hand? Or is Anders just ignorant? What's more, despite his contention of wanting to escape his old life, there are times when Anders seems drawn back to it, almost as if he regrets his previous decisions. But a desire to go back solves nothing, especially since the conditions of his former existence have now changed. For example, in a moment of weakness, or some might say stupidity, he pays a drunken, impromptu, late-night visit to his old home, a move that nearly gets the uninvited intruder's head bashed in by Donnie, played by Bill Camp, a former professional colleague who has now become Helene's new live-in love interest. Indeed, it would seem there really is no going back. So what is Anders to do? That's what he needs to sort out, not only in terms of how to get these particular situations resolved, but also for what he wants to do with his life going forward. Having courageously freed himself from the shackles of his former existence, he has a clean slate at his disposal. And with a potentially brave new future in front of him, he faces the prospect of brighter days ahead and becoming the better person he wants to be. The trick, though, is figuring out how to get there. Starting over in life is often fraught with challenges. Breaking away from those steady habits can be liberating. But when the pillars holding up our lives disappear from beneath us, we find ourselves grasping for whatever means of support we can find to keep us from going under. For many of us, we become so accustomed to our lives following set, predictable patterns that we don't know what to do when all the familiar, readily recognizable signposts are removed. As a consequence, we desperately search for solutions to build a new foundation. But, as Anders' experience illustrates, how do we proceed with that? In essence, it comes down to what we believe constitutes the basis of our existence. Where Anders is concerned, he's basically starting from scratch. With virtually his entire reality wiped away, he's creating anew from the ground up. And since his canvas is blank, he's free to manifest whatever he wants. But as someone who's used to life defined by a limited number of predictable parameters, he's obviously having trouble envisioning, and subsequently materializing, something different, despite the open-ended creative freedom he's now afforded himself. With no practice at creating a life that diverges from what he has long known, Anders fumbles about trying to figure out his way. And, given his lack of experience in thinking outside the box, he has trouble getting things right. He doesn't know what to manifest, and that muddled uncertainty is reflected in the chaotic outcomes he materializes. To be sure, Anders knew enough that he needed to get out of his previous existence, a realization for which he should be heartily commended. However, with no clue what to implement as a replacement, it's no wonder that his life is such a jumble. That, of course, requires some serious sorting out. But again, with a lack of experience in this area, it's a process that might not fall into place right away. Some may look upon Anders' actions, choices, and beliefs with disapproval, disdain, or even contempt. But such assessments are patently unfair. After all, how many of us get things right on the first try, especially when we lack experience in these areas? We all make mistakes as part of our learning curves. Goodness knows I've made more than my share of them along the way. However, this is a process of trial and error, of testing out different options, helping us rid ourselves of what doesn't work and moving us closer to what ultimately does. Those who criticize Anders' actions should bear in mind that familiar biblical adage, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." Indeed, none of us deserves to be subjected to such treatment or judgment, even Anders. Despite a slight tendency to meander at times, the Land of Steady Habits provides an atmospheric look at the illusory joy that necessarily comes from living a life of routine and conformity, damningly skewering many widely held misconceptions about what it takes to be and stay happy. This sometimes humorous, sometimes melancholic exploration features excellent performances, especially by Mendelsohn, and characters who are more real than what audiences typically see on screen, something that some viewers may find distressing. But such affecting reactions are a telling tribute to the impact of the filmmaking. Director Nicole Holofcener again proves that she's one of the most insightful auteurs in the business today, delivering yet another fine offering in her excellent repertoire. Those interested in seeing this picture may have to do some searching to find it. As a Netflix release, the film's current theatrical run is limited and likely to be short before the production transitions to the company's streaming service, an approach the company employed in the distribution of such previous titles as Beasts of No Nation and Mudbound. So if you want to see this offering on the big screen, be sure to act fast. Change can be a scary prospect, but it's often one of the best and healthiest experiences we can have. It opens up new vistas and provides us with opportunities to explore aspects of life that would otherwise escape us. But, even more importantly, pushing past limitation reveals elements of ourselves that we never knew existed, giving us a shot at all manner of new adventures. A practice well worth making a habit. I'm Brent Marchant, the Cinema Scribe. Thanks for listening.
A lifelong movie fan and longtime student of metaphysics, Cinema Scribe Brent Marchant is the award-winning author of Get the Picture, Conscious Creation Goes to the Movies, Consciously Created Cinema, The Movie Lover's Guide to the Law of Attraction, and Third Reel Conscious Creation Goes Back to the Movies, all of which provide reader-friendly looks at how the practice of conscious creation, also known as the Law of Attraction, is illustrated through film. Brett maintains an ongoing blog about metaphysical cinema and other self-empowerment topics through his website www.brentmarchant.com. He's also the movie correspondent for the Good Radio Network and New Consciousness Review magazine and radio, with additional writing contributions to Smart Women's Empowerment, The Happy Guide, Library Journal, BeliefNet, Vivid Life, New Age News, and Master Heart magazine. Brett holds a BA in magazine journalism and history from Syracuse University. Again, check him out at www.brentmarchant.com.